Okay, in this short, we're going to be doing the masking layer, but we're going to have a little bit more support with the freehand selection tool and also with just using the water tool with the transparent lock layer. This will give us a lot of options to protect as many as 5 different ways just by using those specific tools on this particular photograph. Now, I picked this specific photograph out for a reason. Like I always do, I try to pick out photographs or just subject matter of how I'm going to explain something the best way I can. Now, this one is kind of interesting only because there has white birch trees here, but now this one has an all monochromatic look. And then just real quick, we're going to change it just a little bit. Now again, I'm not going to finish this painting. I'm just going to show you several different ways that we could use a mask, the transparent lock, and then also the freehand selection tool. Now I'm going to open these up just real quick just to show you something, because we're going to change this photo just a little bit. And you could see that there are some very subtle patterns on some of these other actual white birch trees. And just to give us a little bit of an idea of how to create such interesting, intricate patterns, what I'm going to do is use the transparent lock just to actually do some of this. This one is the fresh bark that just peeled, so it has some real light pastel colors in it, which is rather interesting. But at the same time, this one has a little bit more darker greens, just a real subtle green, grayish green, and then even a little wee bit of blues in it. But my point is, I'm just going to show you those real quick. But my point is, we're going to change these just a little bit and put a little wee bit of blues and maybe even this permanent rose color in, just to give them a little bit of snap. And then also we can even put a little bit of the quinacridone gold here and there. But we could mix it up. It's a little bit too monochromatic right now, and to make it look more like winter, then what I would do if I did finish this painting from to all the way to the end is I would just change things a little bit, just put some more blues and purples in. Cobalt violet would be a good start too. But we're going to do that just to show you how we could create very subtle patterns that would actually make a difference within our selected and protected areas. Now, what I have to do first is I'm going to mask this tree off and this tree off, and then once we do that, then we will actually go into some pretty serious explanations for this one. I'm going to go ahead and start that. Okay, now that we got our trees blocked off, I just used the Winsor red so we could easily see what was painted over for the masking area. But I will be able to invert that. Plus, I'm going to use a freehand selection tool and then also the water tool with the transparent lock layer. And then we will be able to control as many as 5 different areas. You'll see what the 5th one is going to be too. But first, I am going to turn this off because we're going to go into some quick explanation here. Now, in traditional watercolors, these are a lot of light colors that we would all have to protect because they are solid objects. So if I started doing my grass behind the trees, then I have to protect that tree area. If I start doing my branches across the tree or anywhere else, if it's especially in front or behind some of these foreground grasses, then I would have to protect those too. But now, one thing about these black branches, they're going to be a little bit different. And that's why I picked this particular photograph, because they are going to be put on a non-influenced layer. Now, what I mean by that is if I protect the trees from the actual background, that's one thing. I could actually protect the background from the trees too. But then being that I'm going to be putting dark black branches over both of them, then I want that to be a non-influenced layer because I'll be crossing both the transparent area and then also the opaque area of where I painted. And just as a refresher, the red would be the opaque area, and then anything I didn't paint would be the transparent area. Now, if I turn that off, though, what we're going to do first is we're going to actually protect just the tree area, And then what we will do is paint in the tree area, but that's where I will also, just say for example, if we wanted to protect this leaf right here and this stem from our tree pattern, then we could do that with the freehand selection tool. And let's do that now. Actually, I'm going to fit this on, and then what I will do is I will actually first make this our actual mask, and I will go up here to M, hit M, and then I want to mask the transparent area first, which is everything but red. And then I'll do that, and it made all of our layers influenced, but we're going to have one in particular not influenced, and we'll get to that here shortly. But right now, then, keep in mind the masked layer does not matter where it's at within the layers panel. It could be anywhere. And I can also turn it off, and it will still act like the mask. I don't even need it on. But what I'm going to do first is go down here and use my freehand selection tool, which is right here, and I'm just going to use add to. And I'm going to go right around this just as quick as I can. And then what we're going to do is protect this reed right here from everything else. And since I'm only doing the tree, I only have to do this smaller of an area. And then we're going to take it right there. And we'll protect that area right now. But this area that I drew out now, I would only be able to paint within that leaf area. So I want to paint everything but the leaf. So then all I have to do is go up here and hit Invert Selection. And then what I will do is get my dotted line around the whole entire painting, meaning I could paint anything but the leaf now and the stem. And that's what I want. So now what I will do is actually go down, and I am going to actually turn the transparency of that way down. And just so we could barely see it, since I didn't even draw it out, but I think if we go by the original photo, it might even be better, because you'll be able to see what I'm doing as I do it quickly and not a long, drawn-out demo. Now, this one is ready to go, and what I will do is actually go to the tree itself, which is right here, the white birch, mask transparent. We already did that. Now, what we're also going to do, though, is we are going to actually, I'm going to zoom in, and you can see where the tree is, and that's where our mask is, right there. But what I will do is I'm actually going to go to the water tool first, and those very subtle patterns that we've seen on the other white birch trees and these references here, I'm going to duplicate that now with water. And right here, I'm going to use my splash course, and then I'm going to go in, and you will see that it will stay within the masked area and also away from these leaves. We're going to show wet first. And then you can see now, if I put this down the way I'm doing it, then I can actually bring some colors over just this wet area, and I will be able to create a very intricate pattern very quickly. Now, if that's too much water or my area is too big, then what I'll do is just go to my dry tool, pick out one of these splatters, and then I can actually go back over it and pull some of that out here and there and make the overall wet area just a little bit smaller. And I'll just hit it here and there, and you'll get the gist here. And this is all I want to do with these short demos, is just give you quick ideas of how to use these tools together in a sequence. Okay, that's it. Now that we have our water down, before I turn off my show wet, I want to hit transparent lock, and then now I could turn off the show wet, and now I'll only be able to paint within that area, but then this leaf and this stem will also be protected. So you'll see that if I actually zoom in a little bit, and we'll follow the tree, I'll go with that cobalt violet, which is an interesting color, but I will use spots. So keep in mind, if I want my pattern to even be more intricate, if I use a spot pattern now, it's only going to be laying spots down within that wet area, which is right here. But then also what it will also do is it will actually does not have to be entire that wet area. So if I put down my violet now, you can barely see it because of the picture, but I'm putting it down. We can even turn off the picture. And if I put the violet down now, this is the kind of very intricate pattern I'm going to get. And I can even turn down the opacity if I want to, just to put it in very subtle. That wherever that water is, and you can see the straight edge right there, that's the mask working. And now when I come down to my freehand selection area, this pattern will stop with that leaf. And I'll just rough this in real quick with the violet, just to give you a rough idea, because now that that layer is wet, and now I'll put a wet layer of paint on top of that. What we'll do is we'll go with that permanent rose. And then we'll actually, you could see, and then I'll even zoom in more so you can actually see what's going on. And it's going to be a very subtle pattern. And once it starts mixing, you're going to get all kind of very subtle small shapes there. And then, of course, if I like what I see, I could just quick dry it and stop it there. And then, and this is a dot pattern over a specific area. So it's going to be, and then I can make it as deep or dark as I want. That's irrelevant. And then if I want to change things up a little bit, what I can actually do then is go to the quinacridone gold, tone it down a little bit, and then start putting in some gold, and that'll even change things up even a little bit more. And then once it starts bleeding and blending, I could then stop it, and that would be it. And I could leave it there, or I could also then go back to my eraser, and if I keep the layer wet, I could pull this out and use this, and I can actually pull some of this out. We're going to put the opacity way up. Let's go actually, well, even just to show you, it's pulling it out, but it's pulling it out slow because this is a, and even just to show you, what I want to show you more importantly is if I actually go to a actual eraser, opaque, very opaque, and then actually erase this out, okay, it's gone. But here's the point. What I can actually do is, if I take a different color, just to show you how this would work, I'll take a real dark green. I could still go back in and actually work with my original transparent lock layer. It will still be there. So if I want to take some of this paint out, and then even if I have to, in worst case scenario, go back in and add some more back or change things, as long as I keep that original transparent lock layer, I'll be able to do that. Now, if you want to change the transparent lock layer area, then what I would have to do is turn off the transparent lock, erase whatever I want out, and then turn the transparent lock layer back on. Now, that is actually just within the tree. So now, if I actually turn the photo back on, we'll see where it's at. I'll quick dry that. But then I'm still protecting this right here, this. And then the only thing I would have had to have done is actually add the freehand to this, because what I could do now is go to my mask area, and then what I'll do now is actually mask the opaque area. And so what that would be is then now I would go actually to the background, which could be just the reeds, which are right here, and I mask the opaque area, and it's an influence layer. So now I will actually be able to paint everywhere but the tree. And then also, if I would have had this freehand selected redone, I would have been able to do that. But then, like, say for example, if I want to start roughing in some of my actual, I'm going to use the bloom. I'm going to make it bigger and just real light colors. But now if I start roughing in where my reeds are, just to give it a real subtle pattern, then now you could see that I will actually be putting it anywhere. If turn the photo off, now I'll be putting it everywhere but the trees. And so now, say for example, if I take this back and I actually painted some in, but I still want this snow down, and then all I have to do is go back up, hit the eraser, and get a soft, and then go back in and take some of that out. And make it snow again. And that I could do as many times as I want, because I'm still working with the actual mask layers that are either influenced or not influenced. Now, for the last final thing, I will actually fit it on screen, show us our photograph again. And if I make this a little wee bit darker, just to show you. Now, if I paint these in, if I take this and take it to the black branches, and then I actually want to make it not influenced, so it's not affected by the actual mask itself at all, whether it be set for transparent or opaque, then now what I could do is actually go back to my, we're going to go back to the water brush, and let's see, we're going to do this. We're going to make him bigger, and I'll leave the water off because this is going to be, and then what I might do is, being that it will be a painted area, and then I could actually transparent lock it if I want to. What I mean by that is I would actually make it bigger, and then there's some browns and golds in there even. I would just start with my lighter color and then go darker as I went. But then if I did this and paint this in, make it a little bit lighter, and paint that in, now I'll be able to paint these anywhere because this is not an influenced layer. And if I do that just quickly, just to give you a rough idea, now I'm crossing over everything. But I'll be able to do that because this is a dark branch, very blackish branch, on top of everything else. So no matter what my colors were, light yellows, oranges, pale blues, pretty much all pastel colors, these black branches will cover that anyway because they're fairly opaque. And even if I put in this little branch right here real light, I can even put the leaves in too. But this is just to give you a rough idea. But then now if I transparent lock that, then now I could go back in and put some blues in or some other color to mix in with them browns, just so it doesn't stay a pure brown. And then actually, we'll go with French ultramarine. And then if I actually go to just a little bit of more of a pattern brush, then now I could put a little wee bit of blue in and then let it mix in with that brown, and I'll get very subtle patterns on my brown. So if I turn off the photo altogether, now you can see that looks like a branch. And it would look like a traditional watercolor branch because now I can actually paint anywhere I want. And then if I even want golds in it, because I have the transparent lock layer on these branches, then I could start putting some gold in. And then if I even leave that area wash out because it's mixing, I could quick dry it and I'll have subtle highlights by accident of where the actual water carried the color away. And so that's going to get actually pretty intense on its own just because I'm letting, again, the water do the work. We can put some raw umber in here. And I quick dried that quick, and then some blue on a lower side just to make it look a little bit cooler on that side. But then you can see how quick I could make a rather intricate branch just by a couple colors. But once I draw it out with one color, then transparent lock and go over it and let the colors bleed together with other colors. And then that would be it. But then now this, again, with the original mask, then I was able to transparent lock it so I could just work on the trees, and then lock the opaque and mask it so I could just work on the background. And then we used the freehand selection tool to isolate certain areas aside from the masked areas. And then I turned off the influence layer so I could paint over both areas, whether they were protected or not. And then that way I could actually finish out this painting that would be fairly light colors. And then obviously I would actually use a real light wash of grays. And then I can even mix those because I always mix my blues and grays. My blues and browns to make my grays. And then that is what I would start it off with the sky wash for first, and then leave the snow come down in and put the just a quick wash like we did of the golds just to start, to build up on top of that with individual reeds. And then it would depend on what you want to do with the photo. In other words, do you want to actually keep the reeds real soft as they are in the photo because they're out of focus because of lack of depth of field? But then if you would sharpen them, then you may have to make them lighter just to push them back some so they don't look like they're right on top of the tree, because then that will create a little bit of depth if you make them a little bit softer, and even as you go back into the distant tree line or whatever, that is just more or less atmospheric perspective. Now, with all that said, I hope you got something out of this one. And again, use these techniques to apply to your style and your subject matter. Until the next one, bye for now.